Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Chicken Ball podcast. I'm your host, Mahi Jariwala. This is Chicken Ball's first podcast episode with three amazing guests. Today, we are joined by NBA trainer and co founder of Unlimited Potential Basketball Training, Packie Turner, as well as two members of his staff, professional basketball player Oderah Chidom and Ruta Savickaite. Thank you all so much for joining me today.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for having
us.
us.
Okay, so Packie, you're a very successful trainer, co-founder of this amazing training company. How did you start UPB?
Really, I played in college, and the whole time I was working camps and kind of coaching kids, and just really enjoyed that process. And so when I finished school, I was just coaching and training kids and really enjoyed it. And one thing led to another. And a 9-year-old I was training went to Steph Curry's camp and did really well. And that led to Steph needing a guy in Oakland. And that opened a door for me. So once that door kind of opened up, I just kind of seized it and kept going from there.
And did you always like to train? Because I know when you start basketball, you always want to play pro and you want to play yourself. But did something shift that made you want to start training?
Yeah, I am not that big or athletic, and so quickly was becoming apparent to me that that window is not very big, and I probably don't have a great chance at a great career as a professional. But I thought I wanted to be a coach, and then I realized uh, after a loss, I'm up all night, and I cared more than the kids I was coaching, and I didn't like that. Training is where I found you're with people who really want it. That's why they're working on their game. They
Yeah.
want to get better, and that's the process I enjoy, anyways. Is helping someone achieve something they didn't think they could do.
Awesome. And Oderah, you played for Duke overseas, the WNBA. What has your journey been like so far?
It's been a wild journey. Growing up in the Bay Area, and then just perfecting my craft, having the opportunity to play on so many different teams with amazing players has been a whirlwind. Excited to keep it going. I actually have the luxury. I'm actually leaving tomorrow for Atlanta to play for Team Nigeria. For practicing for Team Nigeria for the Olympics. So yeah, basketball has taken me so many different places. I've met a lot of great coaches and teammates, and it's something I wouldn't trade for the world.
Yeah, and you're kind of training and you have that kind of player aspect of basketball. How do you think being a trainer has shifted your perspective on basketball?
Absolutely. I think as a player, I've been reacting. I've never really had to think or put into words what I'm doing. So to change roles and become a trainer and teach the game and find language to articulate to someone else to make sure that they understand what's going on has really elevated the way I see the game. And I'm super grateful for the experience to finally take a step back and look at it from a different point of view.
For sure, for sure. And Ruta, I know you moved to the United States in high school from Lithuania. So how was that experience moving here, adjusting to a new playing style, a new culture, and a new language as well?
Well, the hardest part was the language, obviously, because when I moved to the States, I barely knew English. But in high school, where I went in Chattanooga, Tennessee, English was the second language. We had like a class because we had a lot of internationals. It was like kind of like a boarding school, so we had like host families. So my first year kind of like broke that really hard step of English, and I kind of started like get it a little bit easier. So that was the hardest part. When it comes to basketball, the game of basketball in the States is way faster, way more plays. The speed is faster. The players are bigger and stronger, and just like weight training is not really a thing here in back home in Lithuania. When I moved to the States, they're like, "Well, we're gonna go to the weight room," and I'm like, "What is the weight room?" So like just little things like that was a big difference. But once you get adjusted to it, it's kind of like becoming a routine.
And were there a lot of girls playing basketball in Lithuania when you grew up?
Yeah, but here in Lithuania and overall in Europe, club sports is more popular than school sports. So like when you go to school, you're not really forced. Like they don't tell you to pick a sport. So like if you really want to play basketball, you're gonna go to a club and play for the club. So everybody in the club really wants to be there. So that's the good part about it.
For sure. And with the COVID situation, it's been hard for most kids to get in a gym or with the trainer. And a lot of kids are kind of up to themselves and they have to self-train. So, how do you suggest athletes go about training themselves and creating their own workouts?
I think there's a few things that you can do. Like there's a lot of things online, just on YouTube. There's also a company we work with called Home Court. They're an app that you can download on your phone, and they actually just released yesterday something that we'd been working on with them for a while, which is a training program. So you can have a personalized training program now within the app. So that's kind of exciting. So you can choose what you want to focus on, and it'll give you different drills. We created over 60 videos with them to give them some new content for everybody to work with, and just keep kind of pushing the fact that in this, you need to be doing things on your own, and there's ways to do it. So that's one thing that we're definitely really excited about. But if you've got a passion for it, you just got to find a way. And to me, basketball is kind of like art, right? Creativity really is what rules, and you every day can do something different, but still be working on very similar things. And I think Oderah and Ruta can speak to that. When they came onto the training side, they were worried about the repetitiveness of it, but then quickly they see how you can just change one little thing and it makes the whole workout different, right? By having a different focus on what you're doing in the same drill. You
Yeah.
might be focusing on your feet or your finish, and it drastically changes everything.
Yeah, and I agree with Packie. Like right now during COVID, online is like where all the kids are. So like if you really want to craft it, if you really want to focus on training basketball, like you can find any kind of drills. Even you can like reach out to trainers and coaches. Everybody has a phone these days, and everybody check their phone. So it's not like you know what I'm saying. There is so many resources. You just have to work at it and like look for it.
Is there like a certain skill that you think is important for athletes to like train right now? Because it's kind of like an off season, it's kind of not. So, what would you suggest athletes do like right now?
I think as long as there's a ball in your hands every single day, and with the pandemic, you have to get creative. So something that my brother and I were doing a lot was we were moving the cars out of the garage, and we were just practicing our ball handling in the garage because that was in our house like probably the closest thing to hardwood that we could find. Um, and just practicing form shooting in front of the driveway hoop and just making sure there's a ball in your hands and you're comfortable with the ball being in your hands in different scenarios. And then when things do return back to normal, you won't miss too much of a beat when things start to pick back up.
Just like staying in shape. Like if you're like somewhere where it's good weather, go run outside, do some hills or something, like you know what I'm saying? You don't have to just like sit and watch YouTube videos of highlights all day. You can, as Oderah said, have a basketball in your hands and also go outside, stay in shape as much as you can.
And I know you guys kind of focus on skill work because I know like that's kind of what basketball training is, but how important do you think it is for athletes to get in the weight room and focus on strengthening in that kind of portion? Because I feel like that is often overlooked by female basketball players specifically.
Well, I think strength and just like jumping, something that you won't get like during a regular training session or during regular practice. In practice, like when you're with your team, you focus on plays, maybe some like more like a team, yeah, mostly plays. In
Yeah.
skill training, shooting, ball handling, everything else, footwork, agility, conditioning, just like jumping and even strength conditioning and conditioning, you have to do it outside of off the court, basically.
Yeah, to speak to experience, I didn't touch the weight room until I got to college. And
Yeah.
it was a rude awakening when I got there and played against girls who were my size or my height, but like they just had an extra 20 pounds on me. That made a huge difference because I just, the skills that I was working on didn't matter because I couldn't hold my ground. So I think it's really important just to learn the form when you're younger. And once you master the correct form and make sure someone's watching you, then you can start to add weight onto it. It's just crazy. The more weight I was able to put on and the stronger I felt, I just felt more established and more grounded when I did play. And it made a world of a difference. Like the stronger I could finish stuff because I wasn't getting moved around so easily. And I felt like I was moving other people, or at least like holding my own ground. So that's one knock on me. I wish I just learned the form earlier. So when I did get to college, I wasn't literally, they put me in a corner by myself to go practice because I was just so much further back than the rest of the team. So to younger athletes out there, just learn the form and just start early.
I think mobility is also really important, and functionality. So especially younger, like I don't think you really need to be trying to lift heavy until you're in high school. You don't want to do anything to kind of stunt it, but you could do light stuff. You could do band work and work on just kind of opening everything up and getting really good at it. But again, like Oderah said, it's all about form and perfecting that and making sure you're doing the correct mechanics and everything right, so you're not going to hurt anything. But if you know how to use it and you're using things that are going to help translate to on court, working certain muscle groups and then putting it into a movement that you would use in a game, now it's effective. I think that's like where when we came up, when we grew up, the crossover wasn't there. You didn't, I was in the weight room, I was doing bench press, but bench press doesn't really help with anything on a basketball court outside of maybe a chest pass. And so it's not a ton of functionality there that translates. So you want to make sure it makes sense to what you want to do and what you want to work on.
That's true. I think I definitely am not a huge fan of that because I like tangible stuff. When you work on ball handling, you work on shooting, you feel it. You're like, all right, my shot's getting better. Oh, I'm getting quicker. But when you do weights and you're doing, body work, you're doing workouts where you're doing push-ups and sit-ups, you don't like feel like, all right, this is actually going to help me finish in the game. What are some good like drills that you guys work on with your athletes that are kind of like tangible or as crossover with like body work training and basketball training?
We do a lot of resistance. So we'll have resistance bands and we'll have our athletes wear them when they're doing ball handling. So they're driving through something, getting low, working on proper mechanics that way. We use the Vertimax as well, and we'll do that for some finishing drills, and we'll do that for some explosiveness, getting rebounds, proper mechanics in that way. But otherwise, we're not really using weights when we do stuff. We're not including anything in that regard. We do a lot of heavy ball stuff. So we'll include a heavy ball into our ball handling, maybe into our rebounding, maybe into like catching and finishing through it through some contact and some weight. But other than that, we don't do too much else.
I know you guys train a lot of female athletes, whatever level that may be. Are there any common areas of improvement that you see in a lot of the female athletes you train, and what can the athletes listening do to fix that?
That's a really good question.
I've got one answer there that I think, just because I've been around a lot more of the kids than they have right now, especially with COVID. We don't have groups or anything like that. I feel like boys tend to have more creativity early, and they're willing to do different things. I feel like girls are very by the book. So if you give them instructions, they follow it to a T. Um, and I think there's something to that creativity. If you say go off the glass once to a girl, she'll do it every time the next time you see her in that same spot, because that's what you told her last time at a young age, right? Because it's been introduced to them that way. I can ask, a young man to do that, and he might do it twice, and then he's going to go back to whatever he wanted to. So it's a little bit more creativity there that allows them to just develop different things. And you look at some of the young ladies who are extremely talented, they have a lot of creativity to their game. So I think including that in earlier and thinking outside the box a little bit sooner can be very helpful to young women.
Yeah, I agree. Like at the young age, girls are really by the book fundamentals, and like whatever you say, they will do it literally every step by step. But when they get older, they see something from one coach, something from the other coach, and they start to put stuff together, and that's when it all blooms.
But what do you think girls can do to just kind of increase that creativity? Because I know I'm like that. I'm totally like that. I like, especially like in games, and I had a really big problem last season where I would kill it in practice. I would do really, really well. I was beating the girls, I was using the moves, but in the game, I was like, all right, everything has to go perfectly because this is a game and it's serious work. And I would mess up because I'm like trying to be so serious and trying to do everything right every single time. So, how do you suggest like girls do that and just be able to play freely and be creative with their game
How were you thinking in practice? What was your mindset in practice?
to just have fun?
Okay, so there's your answer. Just go have fun, right? If you go out there with that mindset, you're not trying to be perfect anymore. You're allowed to make mistakes, and it allows you to experience it all, right? If you make a mistake and you're trying to be perfect, now you already failed. So now you feel like this pressure of like, oh no, right? But when you were just having fun in practice, you were killing everyone, right? So if you just go in with the mindset of, hey, I just want to have fun. Nobody's perfect. The best shooter in the world misses half of his shots. So are you better than the best shooter in the world? No. So then you're going to miss shots, right? So you want to have that kind of just go have fun, right? And I think Ruta and Oderah can speak to that. Oderah has a lot of fun. Every time we play, she's not out there trying to be perfect. She has fun. And I think she's had a lot of success with that. And Ruta, I think the same. Like when they're in the mindset of having fun, we've played and pick up together and things like that. When they're out there having fun, it's a lot easier.
And just like also practice makes it perfect. If you really like something, like have a move and have like different approach to it. Just like keep practicing and practice. And if you know you're confident about it, just do it. Try to do it in a game.
Yeah. And it's funny, like the way I look at basketball, I think of it, it's like a huge game of mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. It's kind of part of it. What separates players, how quickly you can recover from a mistake. Like if you break down one individual play, I made 7 mistakes in one play. And it's just the mistake was so little that I was able to recover from it and I didn't let the mistake affect my play. And I think that, basketball is a huge game of runs and ups and downs, but it's still a 40 or 32 or however long minute game that you're playing. And it's how quickly you can recover. So if when something happens that doesn't go your way, you can't really sulk on it. It's just about like having a next play mentality. And when you're down and worried about the past, I mean, it already happened. It's like, all right, what can I do? What can my team do to fix it and continue playing?
Yeah. But that mindset isn't always easy, right? And I think that like especially when like you said a lot of girls they like to go by the book and I'm definitely one of those people where I like to do everything right. But how do you think you can get to that point?
I think it's a certain level of maturity and just being comfortable. You trust yourself. You put the work in. You know that what you're capable of. One little setback doesn't determine the outcome of the entire game or the entire quarter or whatever. So just accepting that the turnover, accepting the stupid defensive lapse of judgment that you had, and realizing that we have still another half or another quarter and whatever to play, and that mistake doesn't matter.
Um, and you guys have trained like you guys train high school pro, you guys have trained with Steph Curry, Sabrina Ionescu, Aaron Gordon, and many more. But what do you think separates your training sessions with like the top players from your other clients?
So if you came to see a pro workout or you came to see a high school kid, it's pretty much the same workout. I mean, basketball is a very simple game. We try to keep it simple. We'll try to give you some things that are going to make it challenging and difficult and push you in different ways. But the biggest difference might just be the goal for what the drill is, right? It's probably the similar drill, but we might just be having you, with Sabrina, I have her swish shots. So it's not just make them; she has to swish them. Um, you know, with a middle school girl, I'm not going to necessarily give her that challenge. To switch 10 before we move because that might be daunting to her. But once she's, made 10 in a row, maybe it's easier to switch 3, right? So now we can like ease into making it harder.
Mm.
In a game, are you trying to shoot and swish a shot? No, you're trying to make it, right? But if you can swish it and you're getting frustrated in a workout when you're making shots, now it's a lot easier to make shots because makes aren't always good enough. So you're pushing yourself even further than you thought you could. And that's what we try to do. It doesn't matter if you're, in 4th grade, or 10th grade. We're just trying to push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone, help you understand it's okay, and take it to the next level.
And how would you compare the level of focus with like the top clients and but then like your middle school and your middle school and high school clients? And like how can us like younger athletes have that same mentality and how can we have that kind of mindset in the workouts? Because I'm sure that there might be a difference there.
Well, I think the biggest difference is the goals. If I have a second grader coming into the gym and her goal is to have a better shot, there's a bunch of stuff that we can do. But like if a older kid, like a high school senior, comes in and they have a goal of like a bringing their percentage up of threes or something like that, it's just like really focusing on a goal and trying to meet the client there, the athlete there, and just like pushing them to their limits. It's really like just seeing what they're at, where they're at, and then trying to put a workout together.
Okay. And Packie, I know that like okay. Oh, okay, okay. Let me do this again. Um, Packie, what do you think separates you from other trainers, and what do you think separates UPB as a whole company from other training companies?
Um, Honestly, I think just the way that we approach everyone, um, the openness and willingness to help anybody get better, right? There's a lot of individuals that work with pros and they only want to work with pros. But to me, I think if you can teach a second grader, that's harder, right? If you can teach a fourth grader, it's harder because their focus isn't always there. So I think there's also, I'm just getting reps every day with individuals. It's going to make me better when I do have a pro in the gym because I've seen this pattern already, right? So there's no like step A, B, C, D that unlocks the next one, right? You might be at A and then all of a sudden jump to Q and then C might unlock L. Like there's no recipe for it, but the more reps you get, the more people you work with, the better you get at it. And I think that's one thing that we do is we get our reps in and we work with uh, individuals every day to make sure we're staying sharp and it pushes us. And I don't think there's really anything that truly separates us except for maybe our energy. I feel like the energy we bring in the gym and how we meet people, it's welcoming, and that's what we try to do. Anybody, if they want to work, they can come work with us.
And I think that in itself is so important. And, I love the UPB Instagram page because you'll be scrolling through and you'll see you training with like Aaron Gordon, and the next post is you training with the top like high school like girl athletes. And I think not only is that normalizing girls playing basketball, because you see some of the top other trainers, training with pros. It's like when they train with the girl, it's a big deal. You watch their Instagram, there's like one, and they're like, here's like us training with one girl. We support women's basketball, but you guys are different. And so, what do you think makes you guys so special? And why do you care so much about women's basketball and growing that?
I think inclusiveness is what makes you who be. As Patrick said, like we're welcoming anybody that wants to get better. And if a second grade girl, first grade girl wants to get better, wants to get her handles better and her shot better, we're there with open arms. My favorite clients, my favorite athletes are the little ones because they have so much potential, especially the girls because they're just like so excited about everything, about every made shot. And yeah, just like inclusiveness is what makes UVB, I think.
And I know you guys also host pre-COVID, obviously, but free girls like basketball clinics monthly. What inspired you guys to do that?
Kind of what we were talking about, where I feel like I've been doing this a while now, and at the younger ages, you see a ton of boys, and there might be a couple girls that come to our clinics, and they're always pretty shy because they're outnumbered. And I think it's just not as normalized at that younger age yet that they can be doing this. Like girls don't play AAU in second grade as much as boys do.
Yeah.
There's already boys leagues in second, third. I feel like girls start to get introduced to it in fourth grade, and that's maybe normally with CYO or a little school league around that time or a rec league, but it's not serious yet. So I think we just wanted to kind of make sure it was like more normalized for them, and to see others like them there doing it, it makes it a lot easier. So Our staff outside of myself full-time, it's all women. It's Oderah, it's Ruta, and my wife. That's our full-time staff. And so that's kind of, we have a lot of women. We should be working with a lot of women. And I've got a 16-month-old that I want to grow up knowing that she can do anything. And if she sees women doing it, it's going to be a lot easier for her to do it.
That's amazing. I really respect you guys for doing that. Another question is kind of going back to training, but I know you guys work with a bunch of different athletes, a lot of different levels. And so when you look at kids and they're, making that jump to like that next level, some make it, some don't. What do you think separates the ones who make it versus the ones who don't?
I think focus. A lot of people you can tell. When I was growing up in middle school and high school, the difference was those who came to the gym early or stayed late, the ones who were really, really dedicated to their craft, opposed to the ones who were just here for social hour. You could tell. I think coaches notice a lot of little things, a lot of the intangibles. You don't always have to be the biggest or the strongest or the quickest. Sometimes just a teammate who motivates other people to get in the gym goes a long way. Randy Jackson, a really good friend of mine from high school, she was really, really small, but she dragged me to high school at 7:30 in the morning. Randy wasn't the greatest basketball player, but she dragged the McDonald's All-American to the gym every single day in high school. And that alone got her a Division I scholarship because she was able to motivate her teammates. Randy was the first person, whenever we had conditioning practice, she was first in sprints, and she was always the one who stayed after. Wasn't the greatest athlete or the best player on the team, but she motivated us. Just having those hard workers, the ones who really, really want to be there, the ones who are dedicated, just bringing good intangibles to the team.
Packie and Ruta, do you guys want to add in on that?
Just picking it back off of what Oderah said, the little things is really what matters the most. Attitude, talking on defense, sprinting back on defense, not just celebrating your made shot, sprinting back for your team, being there for your team, being a good teammate, holding your other teammates accountable. It's really just like the little things. It's not the coaches when they recruit. From personal experience, I can tell you that when the coach is recruiting from high school to college, I was the biggest one on my team, but I wasn't the fastest one, or I wasn't getting the most rebounds. But what got me a Division I scholarship was talking on defense. I would not shut up, and all my teammates knew it. And just like talking all the time on offense, defense, helping all my teammates. My college coach saw it, and he was like, "We want that. We want that on our team." So just like little things, just know your niche and know what you're good at, and just keep crafting it.
Yeah, and I think I've actually had scouts tell me when they were looking at guys for the NBA that, oh, his body language on the bench when he's having a bad games is really bad. He probably won't last. And these are guys who were, All-Americans. Everybody thought they were like a for sure thing in the league, but they weren't good teammates. So that really goes a long way, even at the next level, to get to the professional level, is how you carry yourself, how you are with your teammates, with your coaches, your energy, your attitude, and your effort. Like that's what we can control no matter what happens with how our game goes on the court. We could miss every shot, but if you have a good attitude, good energy, and good effort, you can still have a real positive impact on your team. And I think that's something that a lot of people think it's all about just putting the ball in the basket. But there's only, one guy in college that really averages like 30 a game, and he doesn't go number one, right? Like he's the best scorer in college basketball, but he's not the number one pick. So they look at a lot of other things than just scoring. And that's what I think kids need to know, people need to understand. If you look at college teams, most really good teams, they've got four guys who average, 10 to 15 points. And that's a really good team. So you don't need to score 30. Now, if you can, that's great. But if you're taking bad shots to try to reach a number that at the next level they don't want you getting to anyways, because it's easy to stop one guy, it's hard to stop five. I think that's something that people can learn, and just learning how to play the right way with others is really important.
I love that. I think usually when I ask that question, it's usually a work ethic question, but I love those specific things. 'Cause I think anyone listening can really take those, and they're very like, you can control that, right? You can control your focus and you can control the way that you act around the floor and how you treat your teammates.
100%, you're right.
Okay. And my last question for you guys is, what advice do you have for young girls looking to pursue basketball?
I think falling in love with it. Don't take it too seriously. Enjoying the process. Um, I think that oftentimes we're perfectionist and we want success right now, but it's a process. So enjoy it for what it is and have fun with it.
Yeah, I think just enjoying the little things, um, especially being surrounded by a teammate. That's what I miss the most. Enjoy your teammate, be there for them, be a good teammate, and just create relationships and enjoy the process and work hard, obviously. It's really important.
Yeah.
And I would say control your narrative. It's your life, right? So what anyone else thinks or believes you should be doing, if they think, oh, that's not realistic, you can't do that. Well, what do they know? They're not you. So if it's something you want and you want to go for it, by all means, go all in on it, right? It's your passion, it's your life. You should live it the way you want to. And I think that's a big thing. I think it's great that there's more of a spotlight on professional sports for women's now. It's getting there, and it's showing a path for young ladies in that regard. But I think it's still not quite normalized like it is with guys, and I don't think that even needs to be the goal. But if you love it and you want to set that as the goal, that's great. You shouldn't let anyone stop you from doing that. There's so many young boys that the first thing they say is, I want to be in the NBA. Young girls aren't coming in our gym and saying, many of them aren't coming in our gym and saying, I want to be in the WNBA. And I would like to see that change, just from a aspect of them seeing a pathway of, hey, I could do that if I wanted to. Doesn't mean they have to, but I think that needs to be, a little bit more normalized, and I'd love to see that happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think now, especially just with social media, I think it's really growing, and I know you guys are doing a great job before it. I think what you guys are doing, it's just, I feel like it's so indirect, but it makes such a big impact, because when you scroll and you just, because you're looking to see pro players, right? I'm looking to watch Aaron Gordon play, and these high school girls are just like, oh, okay, just like it's normal.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you all so much again. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.